Hello, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining me yet another time for these weekly updates. As you guys may already know, this week I started learning math, and I'm gonna talk all about that in this video and how I'm doing that, how I'm learning math for data science. But first, as you know, I always like to start with a little overview of the whole video before I get into it and go into more depth. So here's the short version of this video for those of you who might not want to watch the whole video. I don't know. So this video, I'm going to talk about my journey of learning math from the very beginning using Khan Academy. I plan on learning math from, the multiplication table all the way up to calculus. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of my thoughts on how I could do this better. I found out this week that I should probably be coding too. I should probably be spending some time behind the computer also learning to program and not just doing math. So the whole video is going to kind of be about that process and what my final decision is. So why don't we get on to talking about that? All right, so this week, starting Monday, I started learning kindergarten level math. So that's basically, the period right before first grade. So you're not even in real school yet. And I basically learned numbers. Then on, I learned counting and adding and subtracting and very quickly progressed all the way towards third grade, I think. Um, I think by the end of this week, I'm probably going to do some more on the weekend. I'm going to get to some geometry, maybe even fifth grade level math. Now, I'm very happy that I'm going quick, obviously, in the beginning because I should know all this stuff. And in fact, a lot of it is intuitive, but I still make time to review this because I want my brain to get used to having to work with numbers again because I know this has happened to many of you after school, after college, after high school. You may have never touched math ever again, and you might have done a little bit of additions using your calculator on your phone, but never have you spent a large amount of time pondering calculus or matrices. And it's been a while since you've done things like multiply and add fractions and all sorts of algebra and powers and squares and roots. So therefore, I'm making the time now to get my brain kind of excited or ready to absorb the information that's about to come to me. So that includes learning how to count, learning how to measure, learning the multiplication tables again so that the information is fresh in my head and my brain gets used to dealing with big numbers. I know yesterday I was adding numbers up to 1,000, and sometimes I made mistakes. Most of the time, I'd say out of the hundreds of so questions I've done, I've only made a handful of mistakes, but those mistakes actually came when I was dealing with those large numbers, adding, subtracting, numbers in the thousands. And it really just is a little mistake, and I caught it the second time around. But this goes to show that you can train your brain to catch even the littlest things in the simplest of questions. So that's kind of my reasoning on why I'm starting from the beginning. I did get some pushback from some people on why I would waste my time with that, but it wasn't that much time wasted though. It was only around a week and maybe 2 weeks. Next week, I know I plan on getting to high school level math. Yeah, probably will get there. It depends on multiple factors, but it also depends on what I'm going to talk about next, which is that I realized this week that while math is going very well and kind of speedy and I'm getting used to it, getting a brain for numbers, I also need to be getting a brain for dealing with programming questions and even the simple ones. So while I'm spending a lot of time learning to add and multiply, I should be learning the equivalent of that in programming so that I can be comfortable dealing with harder questions. Now, the next questions I'm going to answer in programming are going to be multiple functions, multiple methods, multiple classes long. They're going to be almost project length, maybe even up to 1,000+ lines of code. And in order to focus on all those lines of code, hopefully I would be very quick and nimble with the 10 line of code functions and the little methods. So I think it's a very bad idea for me just to learn math and ignore programming completely. Therefore, I'm going back to something I talked about before, which is a program called Check.io, which is a program someone made. It functions almost as a programming game. You bounce from island to island answering questions, kind of like a game. I don't know if you're supposed to be a detective or you're just a traveler in the game, but I don't know the story, but I know that you're bouncing island to island learning different things of programming. And so yeah, that's gonna be Check.io, and that's what I'm gonna be focusing on this next week. That's kind of all I really wanted to talk about. That's kind of my my schedule that I made for myself this week. I had not intended to bring programming in to this section of learning math, but after much thought, I really do see myself needing to continue to practice to keep my brain nimble and agile and ready to absorb the new information that should come next. I haven't really thought about what I should do next after I do all the math, but I'm pretty sure once I finish math, I should combine the two, the programming and the math together to do some sort of data analysis. So yeah, that's all I can think about for this video. I hoped you enjoyed hearing about my journey, and so I put a little bit of video that I took on my iPad that included some Khan Academy questions that I was answering just to show you how it's done. And so for now, that's kind of all I have to tell you. I look forward to next week. There really is a huge drive pushing me forward. Now that I finished my first programming book last week, this week is like I can't wait till I finish the whole math section of this journey. So it's been really fun and honestly a journey. And yeah, I'm just so glad that I can share it with you guys, and peace.